everyone once again. I have seen the design of Bludgeon somewhere. Cornbread with fried steak and mashed potatoes. Mm-hmm. That actually sounds like a really
Dang,
good meal.
that was a very filling meal, bud.
Yeah, I haven't had cornbread like in a while. Me jealous. Yeah, we're all jealous of good food. Anyway, I've seen Bludgeon a bit. I know that he's a tank. I know he's a skeleton man who looks more fitting in He-Man of all things, but honestly, I kind of like his design, but I feel like he doesn't. His design doesn't really belong in Transformers, but that's just a me thing.
What is something funny?
Hmm. What?
Speaking of He-Man, my brother is actually a giant He-Man nerd. To this day, he's still a giant nerd, even though he won't admit it. Because one last time when I visited him, this was years ago though, but I'm still pretty sure it's a thing. He basically kind of denied that he was still a fan of He-Man, and then his wife literally said, "Oh yeah, what's the name of your fantasy football team?" And then he said He-Man and Friends. It's just like you are not beating those allegations, brother.
No,
You
he is
really are.
not.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with liking the state, even years later. I don't know why I got so defensive about it. This is so
I know
funny
it's
to
a
me.
it's a very thing for adulting that says that you can't like stuff that you used to like as a kid for some reason.
Right, but it was just really freaking funny that he
Yeah.
literally named it He-Man and Friends.
He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. I have the power.
Yeah, and it's just freaking a fantasy football. That's nerdy in itself, but you do you, bud. You do you.
Oh, I love steamed broccoli. Hello, I'm I. How are you? Anyway, we're going to head into this, and if you guys want us to watch He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, well, the original
Wait,
He-Man series,
which
that would be fine.
I was about to ask the original or the one or the remake that came
N-
out in like the early
we are
2000s.
not watching that remake.
It wasn't
or,
that bad.
no. I mean the latest one over on Netflix.
Yeah,
I
no, that one's not the best. They kind of said we're gonna destroy the lore because why not?
Yeah.
Hi, my, how are you?
But on another note, I would be willing to watch that one that was around when I was a kid. Because that one actually I remember being good, and it was kind of like that Thundercats show. Ooh, we should watch that sometime. Tell us if you want us to watch that. For Patreon, of course, because I can't post that here.
To a master of Metallicato, the coming of this
Metallicato?
episode must have felt like it was in slow motion. For our first Patreon-sponsored episode of 2019, supporter David O'Hara has requested the basics on Decepticon martial artist and agent of chaos,
Agent of
Bludgeon.
Chaos. See, I like his design.
Isn't it Gen 2 or something?
Released in 1989, the original Bludgeon toy was a pretender,
Oh.
a transformer who concealed his
That
true robotic form
kinda
inside a
makes sense.
biomechanical outer shell. His small inner robot transformed into a tank, and his shell took the memorable form of a samurai skeleton. Bludgeon's profile.
Here's the weird thing I've learned, Fable, that for some reason it's basically the Transformers that are pretenders. If they're Autobots, they turn into people that look like they're wearing big mecha armor. And if they're Decepticons, they look like monsters for some reason. How does that make them, be able to hide? I have no idea.
I mean, they're called robots in disguise, but they're not disguising themselves properly.
It's like apparently they're monsters to like scare people away, but I don't think that
Described
works
him
how
as
they
a
think.
merciless, emotionless master of the Cybertronian martial art known as
Especially if you
Metallicato.
guys watch Mask.
Introduced in the waning years of the original toy line, Bludgeon could well have faded into obscurity like most of the new toy characters released the same year, had it not been for his role in the Marvel comic book, which
It looks
turned
like a
him
G.I.
into
Joe
a fan
character to me.
favorite for years to come.
Or,
The comic
well,
built
He-Man.
upon his samurai motif, arming him with a katana sword and adding a dash of mysticism to the character, establishing him as a practitioner of dark arts who lived by a twisted warrior's code.
Oh,
Bludgeon debuted in the UK version of
An
the comic,
action force.
appearing in one of the most memorable stories of the era as a member of the Decepticon elite combat unit, the Mayhem Attack Squad,
That's a
hunting
hell of a
down
name.
Decepticon traitors Carnivac and Catilla. Writer Simon Ferman latched onto Bludgeon right away, and soon after, when he began working on the US version of the comic, he continued to make prominent
really like
use
this
of the
guy,
character,
huh?
promoting Bludgeon first to leader of the Mayhem Attack Squad, and then, in the final few issues of the series, to leader of the entire Decepticon army, reinvigorating them
Is
after
that
their
our
decimation
style?
by Unicron.
Oh god.
Ferman would even continue Bludgeon's story into the sequel comic book Transformers Generation 2, in which Megatron returned to retake leadership and swiftly decapitated Bludgeon when he refused to relinquish command.
God damn.
It was a bit of an ignominious end to Bludgeon's tenure as leader, and 20 years later, when Ferman revisited the Marvel Universe in his 2013 series Regeneration 1, he penned an alternate fate for him. In this version of events, Bludgeon experienced a vision of his approaching death and launched an all-out attack on Cybertron as a way to go out in a blaze of glory.
Makes sense.
Fate didn't unfold the way he expected. He was defeated by Autobot leader Rodimus Prime, who specifically chose to spare his life in order to deny him the glorious warrior's death he desired.
Wow.
But Bludgeon's exploits on the comic page haven't just been confined to the Marvel Universe. A clear favorite of Ferman's, he was frequently featured in the various new Transformers comics that the writer worked on in the decades between these Marvel adventures, in stories with increased emphasis on Bludgeon's mystical tendencies and his obsession with the forces of darkness and chaos. The 2003 Dreamwave Productions comic, War Within: The Dark Ages, followed a pre-Pretender Bludgeon, as his studies of the arcane arts and quest for dark power led him to serve the Fallen, evil member of the original 13 Primes. Concurrently, Dreamwave's Transformers Armada comic featured him as one of the dimension-hopping heralds of the ultimate chaos bringer, Unicron himself. A few years later, in 2006...
Look, I have to stop this one. Thank you for the raid, Momocat! That's what it's up. I didn't expect that coming while we were reacting. I need to go back a second. Yeah, that's the sound that I make when I'm getting raided, everyone. Hello, how was it? Well, I was there for part of your stream. You went on for a long stream. I hope it was a wonderful one. Wonderful 101. No, yeah, good to see you, honey. Anyway.
Of the ultimate chaos bringer, Unicron himself.
Working with Unicron.
A few years later, in 2006, Bludgeon was introduced into IDW Publishing's comics as the main villain of the Stormbringer miniseries, in which he resurrected the monstrous Decepticon Thunderwing, the inventor of Pretender technology. Bludgeon sought to use Thunderwing and his tech to destroy other planets, believing the sacrifice would mystically restore life to the dead Cybertron. But in his hubris, he wound up trapping himself inside a malfunctioning Pretender shell. Even after Ferman's run on IDW's comics ended, Bludgeon would remain a recurring antagonist for years to come, ever seeking to ravage the universe in the name of restoring Cybertron to glory. He served the mad scientists Giaxus and Shockwave, and even Unicron, and had several confrontations with the Dinobots.
Can I go back just a little bit? I like this design for him. It looks more Cybertronian, but still keeps his original design to me.
And Shockwave, and even Unicron, and had several confrontations with the Dinobots, who would ultimately be the ones to end his threat for good.
Honestly, anyone that goes one-on-one with the Dinobots, I feel like that's where their end comes, you know?
Yeah.
Because the Dinobots are the pushover. It reminds me, I don't remember where I saw this clip, but it was a combiner. Just like, I can take on these Dinobots. Do you know what happens when she starts making them angry?
What happened?
The Dinobots started combining into King Volcanicus.
Oh.
Yeah. And I wouldn't want to fight that, even after the Dinobots.
But despite Bludgeon's continued prominent role in all these different comics, it took a long time before his popularity translated into a return to toy store shelves. In the 20 years that followed the release of his original toy, the only other figure released by Hasbro bearing the Bludgeon name was in the 2001 Robots in Disguise toy line, a yellow Megatron recolor with
Weird.
no profile or personality to connect him to the original. Years later, this toy would be repurposed by the Transformers Collectors Club to represent a version of Bludgeon from the mirror universe of Shattered Glass, where he was a heroic cowboy rather than an
What?
evil samurai.
Oh, I get it.
Bludgeon toys based on the original character
Because cowboys and samurais kind of have similarities in terms of how they're used in movies.
E-
Oh, yeah.
were proposed for both the Unicron trilogy and Titanium series toy lines, but neither came to pass. The Unicron trilogy design would be used as inspiration for Bludgeon's look in IDW's comics instead. It wouldn't be until 2009 that Bludgeon made his grand return, when the Revenge of the Fallen toy line introduced a new incarnation of the character for the live-action movie universe. 2 figures were released. The first was just a recolor of the 2007 Decepticon Wreckage, in a color scheme that evoked the original Bludgeon's inner robot. But the second was a brand new toy,
Oh, I kinda
also
want that
based on
one.
the shelved Unicron trilogy design, that finally fulfilled fans' long-held desires, transforming from a tank into a robot cast in the appearance of his classic skeletal Pretender shell.
I do like how they turn the treads into his armor, because that also kind of fits the samurai theming in terms of how it looks. Get my feeling?
Yeah, I did what you mean. That's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a good way to combine both bits.
with a pair of samurai swords. It was in this form that Bludgeon featured in various pieces of ancillary movie media. Most notably, he appeared in animation for the first time, battling Ironhide in the online Cyber Missions cartoon shorts, and he took on a prominent role in the United Kingdom's Revenge of the Fallen comic, with Simon Ferman once again writing the character as the leader of his own breakaway faction of Decepticons.
Huh.
Ever since Revenge of the Fallen, Bludgeon has remained high profile enough to continue appearing in multiple Transformers toy and merchandise lines, both at mass retail and as convention and club exclusives, but he hasn't had much luck when it comes to showing up in media. A version of the character reimagined as a pirate instead of a samurai was considered for, but ultimately didn't appear in Transformers
They
anime.
really like pirates.
More
in that.
traditional versions of Bludgeon were released as part of the Transformers Prime toy line in 2013, and the new Robots in Disguise toy line in 2017, but neither made it into the accompanying animated series. Though an Autobot recolor of Bludgeon, named Blastwave, did show up in the Robots in Disguise cartoon.
Weird.
Strangely, a Minicon also named Bludgeon was part of the Robots in Disguise toy line as well, and he also managed
looks
to
like
make
a
a brief
Bakugan.
appearance in the cartoon.
The
The most recent Bludgeon figure was released as part of the Power of the Primes toy line in 2018. This tiny Bludgeon was the first since the original to function as a Pretender, with a shell that opened to reveal the Prime Master robot, Quintus Prime. As a sword-wielding
Prime?
martial artist, Bludgeon's
Seems so.
name has always been a rather ill-fitting one, but the Power of the Primes toy gave it new meaning as the shell itself transformed into a Kanabo, a samurai war club that could be wielded by larger figures, which allowed the skeletal Decepticon to live up to his name as a blunt instrument. Though the
bad.
one true path
Oh, I
of
like that sword.
Metallicato has yet to lead Bludgeon to our TV screens, nevertheless, he remains the preeminent example of a character from the latter days of Generation 1 who owes the popularity he garnered in the Marvel comic for his continued presence in Transformers today.
Cool.
And those are the basics.
So, what'd you think of Bludgeon, Fable?
I don't actually know. They're just one of those characters where I don't really know what to say. It's not that they're a bad character. It seems like they had under the right writer, which they did in the IDW run. Seems like he could do a lot of stuff, but he's just one of those characters where it's like, huh. I don't know what to say about you, bud. You're not bad. I don't really know much about you to give a proper opinion, if I'm honest.
I mean, that's fine too. But yeah, I just want to say thank you all so much. if you like us reacting to this, think about supporting us over on the Patreon. Like, comment, subscribe. And yes, we've been watching G1 over on the Patreon and Beast Wars. And if you have any other shows you want us to watch, not just Transformers, but He-Man, Thundercats, well, ask us down below.
Give me sight beyond sight.
And yeah, we'll see you all there. Bye-bye.